Hello! Thank you so much for dropping by this video. This is part 6 in a series on the authentic teachings of Christ. Now, if you haven't seen the other parts, of course, you're welcome to join in, but what's going to be presented here is really built on those parts. So I invite you to go check those out, and there'll be a link at the bottom of this video that'll lead you there. So today's topic, or this part, is called Becoming an Instrument, a Servant of God. Now, what on earth could that mean? Well, it sounds very abstract, and my understanding of it's very concrete, and that is simply this: that something, whether you think of it as a being, as a force, as a consciousness, some people think of God, higher power, as an actual being, as an actual sort of gigantic person. It's not important to me how you think of that higher power, but to recognize that something made us and made all of this. And to be an instrument of God or a servant of God simply means to dedicate your life to being in service to life, to align yourself with that higher power, and then to just devote your life to serving all of creation. Now, so it sounds very abstract, become a servant of God, but actually it's very, very, in essence, simple, not always easy. And so let's look at the fact life isn't easy. Anyone who tells you that life is easy is probably trying to sell you something. Like, life can be easy if you only take my course. However, many great sages throughout history have pointed out that life is actually quite a struggle. They've said this in different ways. The way that makes the most sense to me is to view life as an actual battle. Now, not a battle with other people, not a battle with institutions or a particular country or race or religion. I'm talking about an actual battle between what I call good and evil. And again, those are just words. Good, that which nourishes life. Evil, that which is harmful to life. That us as individuals, and of course us as a race, are literally locked in this, you could say, tug of war between these two forces. And to really step into becoming an instrument of God, which is just becoming an instrument of God is just a fancy way of saying of becoming really devoted to the path and to service. Is to actually step into a battle, because to really do that, to really connect to God, and to really, it's funny, I've got my fists like this, to really connect to the divine and to really do service on a big level. It doesn't even have to be on a big level. We're going to be pulled between these two forces. Now, I'm not talking about external, though it can show up that way. I'm literally talking about positive feelings, thoughts, inspiration, and negative feelings, thoughts, and energy that are going to try and pull us. The good tries to pull us towards what's good, and the evil, the negative, tries to pull us towards what's negative. This, I believe, is what Christ meant when he said, I have come not to bring peace, but to bring a sword. Or at least that's what he's written, that he's said, and that's my understanding. And we can, again, anyone can verify this in their own experience. Try to control your thoughts. Try to only do good things all day long, and try to stay connected to God all day long. And you'll very quickly see that there's all sorts of thoughts, but also the force of habit, of negative habit that will seek to interfere with that goal. I'm not talking about external interference, which there'll be some of that. Don't take my word for it. Find out for yourself. So, um, so let's take a little time and reflect on this and take in the vital life energy, noticing what you feel, having the intention to take in this good energy, asking. If you want to, you can ask with a prayer or just with your heart. Have the intention to fill up with this good energy so that we can resist what's negative. So, an important part of this spiritual battle is to not an important, let me cancel, essential part of this spiritual battle is to learn to monitor every thought. Why? Because thoughts move us to action. And so, if we're not aware of our thoughts, we're literally going to be pushed to action. And not every thought is good or true or helpful. Some thoughts are very destructive. All of us have had that experience of, oh my God, what was I thinking? That thing is, it's not what were we thinking, it's that we weren't aware of our thinking, that we, out of habit, said yes to a thought without checking, is this a true or a good thought? If we do that, we're going to be pushed to behave in an unhealthy way. That's how thoughts work. Thoughts move us to actions, more like push, persuade, seduce when they're not good actions, or move us towards healthy, helpful actions. So, this highlights the importance of what I spoke of earlier, which I call the nighttime review. At the end of the day, letting the whole day pass in front of your mind. Because it's not just our thoughts we need to check, we also need to look at our words and our actions and see which ones were healthy, which ones were harmful, and firmly resolve to not do them again because we are overcoming habit. Most people live by habit. Most human beings operate primarily by habit. And when this wouldn't be a problem if we had healthy habits. But to overcome the habit, we first have to be aware we're doing it. If we're not even aware, that's how thick habit can be. Is that we're not even aware that we're doing such things. So, I've spoken a lot earlier about healing. So let's take a look at actually what healing is. Healing is actually nothing more than ending our connection. Let me say, that's not quite. That it is removing this negative force. So let me give an analogy, because most people think of healing as a disease leaving, but the problem with that will be highlighted in this analogy. So imagine that someone goes to the doctor and they're like, "Oh, doctor, I have a stomach ache." And so the doctor says, "Okay, well, here, have some Tums." I don't know if they have Tums in other countries, but that's something you take, when you have a little extra acid. It's like, "Oh, thank you." But the stomach ache keeps going, so the person keeps taking the Tums. And then they go to the doctor again. "Oh, doctor, my heart is beating fast." The doctor listens to the heart and says, "Oh, okay, here, take this medication, which helps the heart slow down." So now this person's taking heart medication and Tums. The heart slows down, the symptom is gone. The stomach doesn't hurt, the symptom is gone. Of course, they're having to take medication to, and then they goes again and, "Oh, doctor, I just feel lightheaded and fatigued all day long." And the doctor says, "Well, maybe there's something deeper." So the doctor does all these tests and finds an underlying diagnosis that was actually causing the stomach ache, the heart beating, and the lightheadedness. And it's a good thing the doctor got the correct diagnosis. Otherwise, he would have given a medication for um, the lightheadedness, and this very serious disease would have been left untreated. So, from a spiritual point of view, it's okay to, hey, you have an upset stomach, take a Tums. It's okay. Or take something more natural, or change your diet. All those things are good and healthy and helpful. I mean, you take Tums all the time, maybe that's not the best, but however, it's very important to understand that every problem in life, and right now we're just talking about health problems, but has a fundamental underlying cause. And to seek to remove that cause, because if we don't, we're just treating symptoms, even if it's healthy and natural. So let's say, for example, going back to my analogy, someone has, the stomach ache, and so the doctor recommends some dietary changes, and that helps. The stomach ache disappears, and then, their heart is beating rapid, and so the doctor realizes that they have some anxiety. So they teach them some breathing practice, and they encourage them to do some exercise to help them relax, and then that goes away. And then with the lightheadedness, the doctor realizes that they're not eating enough, and so prescribes them to eat more regularly. And they do that, and the lightheadedness is gone. But from a spiritual point of view, there's a fundamental thing that caused each of those things. And it's just going to show up in a new place, in a new symptom, a new problem, unless we treat it. The word I'm using doesn't really matter what you call it, is evil, or that which is negative, meaning that which is harmful to life. That is the fundamental root cause of every single problem. And until that is removed, Until that is removed, new problems will just keep popping up. And of course, even if you're doing healthy things to take care of the individual problems, you haven't treated the real the real disease, the real cause. So let's sit with all this, continuing to take in this vital life energy, noticing what you're feeling. Taking in this energy, the one thing that can relieve the root cause is the divine force or divine power. So, from a spiritual point of view, there's actually only one problem and one solution. That one problem is the negative force, and the one solution is the divine power. Now, that is not in no way, shape, or form am I discouraging someone from going to a doctor or employing any other natural, holistic, or spiritual approach to their healing. But I do feel it's my duty to point out what the root cause is and encourage people to seek to solve the root problem. Now, this topic also then takes us to a very profound word, and the word is salvation. Now, we hear that word often, but usually in a religious context. Normally it means, oh, when I die, I'll go to heaven. And if that's what you believe, so be it. I don't believe that's what Christ taught at all. And my understanding of what he taught was that salvation is actually an end, a removal, freedom from all evil. Now, meaning once a soul has gotten to the point where they're actually stronger than evil, where they have actually overcome, that they have won the spiritual battle. And in that sense, they are, in the truest sense of the word, they're free. One of the, you could call it side effects, but really, um, really the outcome of winning this is um, being at peace under all circumstances, being able to maintain a sense of peace and detachment under all circumstances. That doesn't sound humanly possible. Well, that's the thing. It isn't humanly possible. We can't do it without the divine. We can do it. Each one of us can. History is full of people who have testified that in their own direct experience, they reached a place of absolute peace, which nothing could shake. Now, again, in the West, we normally think of salvation as meaning when I die, I'll go to heaven. Whereas in Eastern philosophies or religion, there's more this idea of, which is more in line with the spiritual definition of salvation, of they have words like liberation or nirvana means the extinguishing of all suffering, or freedom are some of the words. And that's not something in Eastern philosophy, that's not something that happens just because you die. You had the right belief and you died. It happens through a combination of grace and our own effort. So let's sit with this very deep topic, the spiritual definition of salvation. This recognition that we can't do it on our own, but simultaneously, it's not just something that God does. It's this amazing, um, miraculous, kind of unfathomable combination of our own grace and making effort. My understanding, and I'm just a guy on this path. Each person must find their own understanding, but my understanding is we make effort to seek the grace. It's like God is unlimited and all powerful. And so I, as an individual, I make effort to tune into that unlimited power. And then it saves me because of my efforts. So let's sit with all this for a little bit, continuing to take in this life energy. So, to become an instrument or servant of God has a few requirements, a few just absolute commitments, a few things we just must strive for. I shared the Saint Francis prayer in the last, part, and to really live by that, there are some things that are just absolute requirements. One of them is faith. We talked about having faith even when bad things happen. That's where the rubber meets the road. I'm reminded of a quote from the Bible, from the book of James, who is said to be Jesus' brother, that James said, I have to paraphrase it, consider it nothing but joy, my friends, when hard times come to you. Totally. I'll just paraphrase it. He said, in essence, consider it nothing but a gift from God, worthy of celebration when bad things happen to you, because those bad things are happening to you in order to deepen your faith, that you may be made complete and whole, wanting nothing. So, I spoke about how everything, even the negative, happens for a reason, but there is a fundamental lesson we're all here to learn, and that's how to have absolute and complete faith and trust in God. And when we have that, we actually feel whole and complete. So another absolute requirement is detaching from earthly things. Now, this doesn't mean we all have to become monks and nuns and become, I am only spiritual. That's sort of ridiculous. But the middle ground between being a hedonist and a head in the sky spiritual person, which it's questionable whether that's actually what spirituality is to have detachment and dispassion towards the pleasures of life. Doesn't mean we can't enjoy them, but if we're grasping after experiences, it's one of the hugest obstacles to us being in communion with the divine and then being of service. And then lastly, just in terms of uh, baseline requirements, is this decision that I am going to follow the divine. I'm going to strive moment to moment to seek, as they say in religious terms, knowledge of God's will. Maybe in more spiritual terms, seeking to be inspired and led by inspiration, moment by moment. This isn't easy. None of the things I'm talking about are easy. But if you notice, everything I'm talking about is actually, it's not intellectually complicated. The truth is actually very simple, and the path is very simple. But as we started off with, it is a fight. It is a battle. It's not an easy. So let's sit with all this a little bit, continuing to take this energy in. Noticing what you feel. So this attitude can really be summed up in a beautiful prayer. It's called the third step prayer. It's from the 12-step tradition. And it goes something like this: God, higher power, source, spirit, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Please relieve me of the bondage of self, and I would say false self, or relieve me of the bondage of evil, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy love, thy power, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. It's a very powerful prayer because it's a prayer of fully surrendering and offering ourselves and dedicating our lives to this path. But then we have to live it. Then comes the battle, the striving to do this, to live this way. So, what's possible for each one of us? What can we do? What can we become as instruments of and servants of God? Well, history is full of examples. Take Gandhi, for example. Take Martin Luther King. Take the Indian saint, Mata Amrita Nandamayi, who, for 24 hours nonstop, she's called the hugging saint because for 24 hours nonstop, she'll hug people, whoever comes to her, 20, 30,000 people in a one day, giving them her energetic blessing. And she started so many humanitarian programs in India, her country. I think if every country on this planet had a saint like her, we'd probably have heaven on earth. But the thing is as we started off with, this is a school, and it's a school for each one of us to become saints. Maybe none of us will reach the level of Mata Amrita, her short Amachi for short, or maybe that's our ultimate destiny. I'm not there yet, so I can't tell you. It's my utter conviction that is that and beyond, that we are all children of God, and it's our destiny to really become that and be that. And the people we worship as religious figures are not so much here to save us, but are here to show us what we are and what is possible and what's inevitable for each and every one of us. One of them that I have a deep, just profound respect for, his name is Bruno Gröning. In his presence, blind people would regain their vision. Paralyzed people would stand up out of wheelchairs. Deaf people would regain their hearing. Birth defects would heal. Terminal cases of cancer, the cancer would just vanish. He radiated this energy that we've been taking in. And here's what he said: believe that I am nothing more than your helper. Believe, dear friends, that I am nothing more than a servant of God, which you can also be if you want to be, if you only do it. And believe, dear friends, that I am nothing more than a tool or instrument, an instrument of God, which in reality you are also, which you are not yet able to believe. Love life, God. God is everywhere. So it's written in the Bible that Christ said, these things and greater shall you do. I'm utterly convinced that's true. That beings such as Amachi, such as Bruno Gröning, such as Christ, the great saints, absolutely, our respect is worthy of them, or they're absolutely worthy of our respect, and for us to respect them is important, very important, and that actually what they're doing is showing us the truth of what we are, the truth of what we're here doing, what we're here learning how to be and how to become. instruments of God, servants of God. Thank everyone who took the time to watch this video and everyone who joined in live today. As I said before, to anyone who's new, there'll be a link below this video showing. And there's one more point, actually really important. So what I've come to realize is that we all need the help of such beings to walk this path and to fight this fight. That it's next to impossible for any one of us to do it on our own. Some people call that savior, some people call that guru. I call it spiritual helper or spiritual friend. And that we all need someone like that on our side. And that they, in essence, they already are on our side. But for us to really recognize that and to seek their counsel and help. And if nothing else, that we have trust in them and trust that we can grow to become. And again, I don't know what the limit is of our human capacity, but all of these great beings in India, they're called Mahatmas, great souls. All of these great souls have called us to strive to be more like them, not from a place of vanity, not from a place of like, oh, imitate me, but actually from a place of calling to our calling to us to live out our deepest potential. Thank you so much for joining in. I wish you a day full of connection to life, to this divine energy, and being in service to it. Take care. So much love.